Hey, it's Anne-Marie. Welcome back to another Ask Anything live stream. And this is where I am able to answer the burning questions that you have, whether it's around personal branding, whether it's around podcasting, whether it's around becoming an influential voice in your industry. So I have a number of questions that have been asked. And if you do have a question, there's a couple of ways to do this. Either you can join me live if you have the courage to do so. I will not bite. And so to do that, all you need to do is go to bit.ly/ask anything oct20. Just follow that link there, type that into your URL on Chrome, preferably. And then I can let you into the studio and we can do some coaching, some live coaching there. That's what I just love doing, that because you just don't know what questions are asked. And if I can't answer them, I'll make sure that I'll find someone who can, but I'll give it a good stab anyway. Or alternatively, add your comment in the platform that you are watching from. And I'm using StreamYard, which is a platform that I love and use for all of my podcasts, recordings and streaming. So type that in the comment. I'll be able to see it and we'll bring that in and answer it. So we're going to get started. This is the very first question that I was asked. When it comes to becoming an influential voice in my industry, where do I start and how do I reach my audience? My goodness, we could do a whole workshop on this particular area. However, a couple of things that I would recommend. The firstly, where do you start? I mean, you start understanding, where is it that you have expertise? Where is it that you have knowledge and experience to be able to really share that knowledge, expertise? Because I'm assuming that you are a coach or a consultant or looking to become a coach and a consultant and helping a specific demographic of client in the area that they're struggling with your expertise. So you need to get clear on that first. You know, one of the biggest mistakes I'm what I would call a multi-passionate entrepreneur. I know many of my community are. We love doing lots of things. We've got lots of different experience across different industries. We love learning, so continuously learning new things. But what we want to make sure is that we don't stretch our message too thin so that we're not seen as or not building our reputation as that trusted authority in that one key area or an area that we can really support clients. So to become an influential voice, where do you start? You have to get clarity on that. Where do you want to position yourself? And I'll give you an example. When I was working in the career industry, a couple of decades ago, I just did not want to become a job search coach. I just did not want to become a resume writer or an interview coach or someone that helped people get their LinkedIn profile up to the point where it was attracting potential employers. And so I did it all. But what I did do is get clarity on what I now call my umbrella statement, and what I now help coaches and consultants kind of get clear for themselves. And that is, what is that statement, that umbrella statement that has your promise of value, promise of expectation for your clients, that when you share that is what you do, instantly they are intrigued because it's something that they're struggling with. So you have to get clarity on that first. Where do you start? You have to get clarity on where that is and what that is for you, so that you can consistently start to share content, information, insights into that area and do that consistently. I'll give you another example of where I didn't follow my own advice. This is the advice that I'm starting to share, the insights that I continue to share, is when I reflected back over my own career and the things that I did not do. There's nothing better than to teach insights and information from the stuff that you've learned yourself, because I can see many other people doing this as well. So when I first started my co-host podcast, and many of you would know that was back in 2008 in the career industry when the global financial crisis hit. We did that for 2 years. And one of the things that we were doing, my co-host particularly, was really looking at the various technologies that were just coming out. And I'm talking about social media. Facebook had been around for a little while. Twitter was something that was starting to be spoken about. And we were able to amplify our reach and get our podcast out to many more people and an audience around the world. And so a lot of my colleagues in the local business areas and my networks were asking me, can you come and speak to us and share about how you're leveraging social media? It's very new. We don't know whether we should. I mean, I'm talking, this is, back 2008, 2010. And I was happy to share. I'm always happy to share what I've learned, some of the mistakes I've made, so that others can avoid those mistakes and get to their results far quicker. But what I didn't realize was that by sharing, and I did do that, I went to a number of the local councils, business networks, groups talking about social media. I was even hired by Chisholm Institute to develop, they were the very first institution around Australia that had the first industry endorsed course, a training diploma certificate on social media or digital media. And I was in charge of developing the content, the actual curriculum for digital media, for social media, and I taught that also for a couple of seasons. And so I really was starting to talk about social media. Now, what happened was I was watering down my message when it came to personal branding. That was what I did, personal branding, but more for now entrepreneurs. And it wasn't, and for some of you might have heard me tell the story, but it's relevant because this is where you start. If you're not clear on where you position yourself, and if your existing message is watering down your message like it was mine, one of my colleagues hired a personal branding strategist. We were in a committee together. We'd known each other for years. So she knew that I was doing personal branding to help entrepreneurs get noticed, get hired, get paid what they're worth by their ideal client. And we were sitting before a meeting started, and she said, "Oh, I'm so excited. I've just hired this personal branding strategist, and I can't wait to get." And she said, "Oh, that's what you do, don't you, Anne-Marie? I'm so sorry. I forgot all about that you did personal branding business coaching." And it wasn't till that moment that I realized I've watered down my own message. And so I'm very mindful now to have that umbrella statement that really continues to. Now, I could have talked about social media, but I should have done it on the umbrella of how to leverage social media to amplify your reach, amplify that reputation as a trusted authority so that you can attract your ideal client. I didn't know back then, but I do now. And that's obviously what I teach. So you have to start there. And how do you reach your audience? Well, you've got to know who is your ideal client. Where are they hanging out? What platforms are they hanging out on? And really just continue to consistently show up there. You might also have a couple of preferences as to the platforms that you enjoy using. For me, I've always loved podcasting. I am, as many of you have heard me say before, I'm an extroverted introvert, which means put me in front of a microphone and I'm happy to chat. I can continue chatting till I can't. My energy is depleted and that's it. I will just go to my office on my own. Silence is the best noise for me. And I know that. And so I use podcasting as a way to build my network, to have incredibly engaging conversations, deep conversations from people who I admire, who I respect, who I know can, share incredible insights to my audience, but also that I'm constantly learning. And so I use that medium, always have, even when people said to me back in 2008, 10, and even many years later, what are you doing podcasting for? It's no one listens to podcast. Well, look at what's happening now. Anyway, I digress. So it's a platform that I have loved, but what you could do with that platform is repurpose it. So why I'm sharing this is, how do you reach your audience? You might have a preference of a platform that you really enjoy, yet there may be people who are your ideal clients that may not necessarily consume content in that way. So in the aspect of a podcast, you can transcribe it. You can now record video, so chop up different video snippets. So whatever platform and medium of communication you're using, make sure that you're repurposing it and using different mediums, so that if someone is your ideal client, it loves to watch videos or loves to listen to audios or prefers to read, that you're sharing that content in that particular way. So that's where I would suggest you start. Find out firstly know who your ideal client is, where they're hanging out, and then just consistently share that message on that platform. All righty, let's see. All right. So Mark has asked a great question. He is over on LinkedIn. Do you find many people lack the confidence to be branded as a specialist rather than a generalist for a broader market? Mark, yes. And in actual fact, one of the questions that has come up is this. Let me see which one was on courage here. When it comes to launching my podcast, how do I get the courage to launch? So yes, I definitely find that many people lack the confidence to be branded as a specialist. Here's a couple of things, Mark. And by the way, if you've got some comments that you have found, happy for you to share that as well. There's something about, and I know here, particularly in Australia, there's a term called tall poppy syndrome, that if you elevate yourself as being better than someone else or have more experience than someone else, that you're arrogant, and no one likes that at all. Well, I say, as a specialist or someone who has had extensive experience or experience in a certain area, you've overcome certain challenges and have come up with different systems and steps, methodologies to overcome that. Why would you hold that back and not share that? Now, it's going to depend on how you share that and how you come across. That very much will depict your character. So yeah, you got some people who, when they're sharing, they think that they're it in a bit. Well, you don't have to be that way. You can share it in a very humble way, bring humility into it. That's fine. But and this is one of the things that I often stress for people. You are a specialist because you've lived it, you've breathed it, and now you're able to share it. Not that you're better than anyone else or everyone else. You are better placed to support your ideal client. You're better placed to support your ideal client. So you're not saying that you're better than everyone else, just better placed to support your ideal client. And that experience, the challenges that you've overcome, the years of studies that you might have done have positioned you to bring specialist knowledge. We're always learning and expanding and growing, absolutely. And I know for many of us who are I've heard the term knowledgepreneurs, or we're kind of positioning our expertise as a trusted authority. We're continuously learning and developing and growing. And we continue to share that, under the umbrella of where we want to really hone and be known as that trusted authority. And so there's that, the confidence. But secondly, a generalist for a broader market. You need to be mindful, and Mark, I'm sure you know this, and for others who may think that if I target a broader market, that I have an opportunity to expand my business more because it is a broader market. And actually the opposite is true often, is that if your message is spread too thin and you're trying to be more of a generalist for a broader market, then because there's so much more content and so many more people online, businesses online, you're just not going to cut through the noise. So you can be a generalist in this way. So I'm going to share that you may have a specific set of skills and experience that you can bring to the table. But rather than generalize that to a broader market, why not hone it in to a particular industry so that you become known as a trusted authority in that area? And then once you really start building your name, then you can expand your market. Remember, you don't have to continue to offer a specific specialist service to one industry or become, to just stay at that niche. You can expand, but starting off first, you do need go narrow and then you can expand. One of my mentors years ago taught me about a strategy called the tip of the spear. It's a war strategy, but we can use it in business as well. And basically what it meant was if you've got an enemy, what you want to do is, rather than sending your whole army in to attack the enemy, send in a smaller group. He'll infiltrate, and then they will find a way of kind of opening up the passageway, so to speak, to allow in your larger army. So go in small, go in stealth, go in highly niched. And then when you start to develop your name as a specialist in that particular area, then you can start to focus on a broader market. So I hope that makes sense. So the confidence, you're not being arrogant by positioning yourself as a specialist. You are not better than everybody else. You're just better placed to support a demographic of client or a client that may require your support and services. Now, you can provide multiple services for that one client. as I gave the example of the career industry, my tagline was get noticed, get hired, get paid what you're worth. I could help clients in understanding what their unique talents were, where their strengths were, better placed in a role, what motivated them, and why in some workplaces they felt drained and couldn't wait till the weekend, yet in other places they just absolutely thrived. Self-awareness. I was, back in 2000, back in the 2000, we knew as career coaches who were able to help our clients understand that. Many career coaches today, that's what they do, help people recognize that. But I offered multiple services with that: resume writing, interview coaching. And so I was offering lots of different services, but really targeted under that one umbrella. So hope that makes sense. Niche, go and, type that tip of the spear, and then you can open up and offer more services or expand your marketplace. All right, let's look at another question. And thanks for that, Mark. Good. Okay, so how do I avoid overwhelm in my business with having to do all the things? Easy. Don't do all of the things. Doesn't mean that you can't add, like, particularly I hear this time and time again with, do I have to be across all of the platforms? Do I have to do video and podcasting? Do I need to write a book? Do I need to do all of those things? No, you don't need to do all of those things. And in actual fact, if you try to take on too much too soon, you are going to burn out and you are going to feel overwhelmed. So what you do want to focus on first is what do you naturally gravitate towards? Are you someone who loves to write? Write. Make that an area that you really highly get your message out, and then you might be able to repurpose some of your blog posts into graphic snippets or graphics using Canva. You can then use a platform that will allow you to take those graphics into a movie, and a moving, MP4, or even record some audio from that. And I've forgotten the name of the platform because my team does that for me now. Isn't that terrible? As you start to get team to do more things, you forget the names of the platform. Let me just go to my Google site, my training site for my team, and I'll give you a platform that we use constantly to be able to repurpose some of our podcast episodes into MP4s, which you could do very well with your articles as well and blog posts. Let me see. Give me a minute while I get this up. Technologies. Where is our technologies list? Here we go. Let me see what Headliner. That's what it's called, Headliner. Headliner. Let me just get it up. Headliner.app. Go to headliner.app. So that is a fantastic platform where you can repurpose. So what you're doing is you're focusing specifically on a certain like maybe writing, maybe you do like podcasting and interviewing, maybe you do like live streams. You need to focus on what you're going to do, and then do that well, and then you can continue to expand. You might have team then that can repurpose that for you, but don't feel that you have to be on all platforms. Focus on one and get that working well, and then you can focus on expanding another, or just repurpose your content across others. So don't feel that you have to do that all. So hope that helps that particular question. When it comes to launching my podcast, how do they get the courage to launch? Just launch. As I mentioned earlier in the previous question that Mark asked around the confidence to be a specialist versus a generalist and working with a broader audience, I think often the courage comes, or the lack of courage, I should say, comes from our own worst critic, and our worst critic is ourselves. So stop thinking, what if no one listens? They will. People will listen. What if people criticize me? Well, who cares what other people think? Unless, of course, they're your ideal client. If they are your ideal client and the feedback is that what you're sharing is just not landing very well, well, then you've got to go and get some support on clarifying the right message. But for all the other critics, unless of course some of the critics are your mentors and other people who you trust and respect, and they have your best interests at heart, then of course there's certain feedback that you can welcome, because it's going to help you continue to evolve and to expand. But for everyone else, I mean, just don't worry about them. I mean, a lot of the people that have these nasty little comments, they're stuck in their own stuckness because of areas that they need to deal with, and they're just projecting their unfortunate, nastiness to others. So don't let that get you down and stop you from launching your podcast. Imposter syndrome, as I mentioned earlier, you are better placed to support someone because of the journey that you've walked, the problems and challenges you've overcome, the methodologies, the steps, the systems that you've created because you needed to help you get to that next level or overcome whatever problem or challenge that you were challenged with. And now you are better placed to support someone else who is going through what you went through years ago. You're supporting them in overcoming those challenges, and your podcast is a great way to be able to spread your message, get your message out there, and make a much bigger impact in the world. Just launch. And one of my mentors once said, if you're waiting for courage, let me just put this up a little bit here. If you're waiting for courage, or actually confidence, waiting for confidence, you don't need confidence, you just need courage to step out. Do it once and then do it again, and then again and again. Just get it in your diary. And you know what, one of the things that I will often get my peeps around me, if I'm struggling with something, is to just come up to me and point a finger at me and go, just do it. And they do, and I go, okay, I will. So just do it. Launch that podcast. And if you need support, I know someone that can help you. Podcastingwithpurpose.com. Go to that website. There's some great resources there for you. All right, we're just about coming to the end of our session. So I'll try and fit in, as I said, answer as many questions as I can in 30 minutes. Obviously, there's no one who is brave enough to come online to ask their question, but that's okay. Maybe one day you will. Maybe if someone does, I will go a little bit longer, over half an hour. Okay, how do I stay motivated when it comes to doing my podcast? Yeah, you can kind of go flat out, when you're out of the gate, so to speak, you've got podcast episodes lined up, and then slowly as time goes on, I've got to do some more recording. I've been there, I've done that. And you know what I have done? Batch. I find that batching my podcast creation days has helped immensely, because now what I do is I batch all of my podcasts on certain days and times, and it's a standing appointment, so that all of the systems are set up to be able to onboard guests. I have systems that onboard clients too, but onboard guests to help them prepare and be as best prepared as possible. I have a team that supports me as well. And the reason I'm sharing that is sometimes the motivation comes from the exhaustion of all of the things that you need to do. So one of the things that you need to do when you're looking at an issue or a problem is, what can I remove? What can I streamline? What can I improve that will allow me to do whatever I need to do in the most effective, productive, efficient, and fun. It has to be fun in that. I mean, why would you bother doing something on a long-term basis if it weren't fun, right? And what I call fun is having those conversations and diving deep, into a particular topic. That's fun for me, because if I'm learning something, that is fun for me. And if I'm having a conversation where I'm thinking I'm doing everything in my power to muster up interest here, that can be draining. All right, so set up systems to be able to support you. Maybe look at batching so that you do your podcast interviews back to back. And once they're recorded, they can be in a folder, and then you've got a team to be able to help you to do all the post-production and the publishing on your website, so that you're just focusing on the aspect of your podcast, which is the interviewing. I mean, you can't hire a team member, some people, maybe you can, to do your podcast. And remember, I mean, a podcast is your platform, your virtual platform where you're engaging with your audience, you're engaging with your guest, or maybe doing solo shows. So that is really an opportunity for you to shine. And that's what I'm assuming is one of the reasons why you've started a podcast. So set up those systems and then just do it. Just do it. There's standing appointments that you've got in your schedule. There's always going to be something, isn't there, that you may do, some aspects of what you do that you may not necessarily want to do consistently. So can you delegate it out? Can you hire it out? Can you automate it? So that you can continue to focus on doing the things that really light you up, which I'm assuming is the interviewing of your guests. Okay, I will answer one more question before the top of the hour finishes, and then I will let you go on your way, and we'll get this prepped because I repurposed this particular episode too as part of one of my podcast episodes. So how do I connect with key leaders and invite them on my podcast and have them share mine on their podcast? So you're doing a bit of a reciprocal interview. You ask, reach out on LinkedIn or any of the platforms and have an opportunity to have a Zoom chat, or ask them in the message, say, hey, I see you've got a podcast. I've listened to it, and I believe that we serve a similar audience. I was wondering if, we do a podcast swap. I'll interview you, you interview me, just ask someone, have the conversation. And if they say no, they say no. I'm sure that there's a lot of other different people who can come on your podcast as well. So that's the short answer. Ask them. The longer answer, which this could be part of your strategy. I mean, one of the foundations and the foundations podcasting monetization modules, we talk about collaboration and your guesting strategy being an opportunity to develop relationship with people that could become joint venture partners, could become referral partners, and some form of alliance. So you may have a particular key leader in mind and you want to build that relationship with them. Well, then it's going to take a little bit more time, isn't it? That's going to be part of your network building, your relationship building. You might have met with them on a networking opportunity online, perhaps. Invite them for a Zoom call. Start to follow their content and comment on their content, sharing some valuable information that adds value to that, or just share that content. Invite them onto your podcast first, without the need to have that reciprocity. That word is a one. I'm going to focus on reciprocity. Okay, reciprocity. That word is one that when I don't think about it, it kind of stumbles out the wrong way. Reciprocity. So without reciprocity in mind, that, hey, I'm going to invite you on mine, so therefore I expect an invitation. Don't go with that mindset. Have them on the podcast, have a wonderful conversation, and then at the end of either the interview or maybe down the track, is to say, look, I loved the content that you shared. I'd love an opportunity to chat, on Zoom. How may we support one another? I think we serve a similar audience. I would love to have an opportunity to chat, and then develop and nurture that particular relationships. And that's what I have done, over the years. And, I've got other guests that I have not connected with for ages, and I could go back and reconnect with them, see what they're doing. There could be opportunities there, but really ask and set up, or have the mindset of everyone that you do meet and that you do connect with. There's opportunities there that need to be discussed and looked at, and you may end up working together or launching a joint product or a program, or maybe just referring some of your clients to that particular person and vice versa, because and trust them. There's a level of excellence and integrity in the way that they do their business, so you would be very happy to support them. So ask and have a strategy in place to continue to really nurture those relationships and collaborations. All righty. Well, that is that for me. I think that that's all the time that I have to be able to answer those questions. Now, this is just one of the things that we do as part of the Influence Alliance, which are the sponsors of this particular Ask Anything live stream. So the Influence Alliance is the business building community for coaches and consultants, particularly coaches who are really wanting to position themselves as a trusted authority in their industry. Maybe you're someone who knows you've got a wealth of experience, a depth of knowledge and expertise that can help your ideal client go from where they're struggling to where they're succeeding far quicker, far more efficiently, without the frustration and heartache. Yet you feel like the world's best kept secret. Or maybe you just need to surround yourself with people who will lift you up as you continue to get your message out there, and maybe even launch your podcast, or take your podcast and get it to a point where it is starting to generate leads for you. The Influence Alliance is the community that I created specifically for you. So the influencealliance.com is where you can find out a little bit more information. For October, you can come and join us for $7 for an entire month. There is so much training on there, to be able to support you in building your core business foundations, whether you're wanting to know more about how you can start nurturing relationships with potential podcast guests, or collaborations, or building a community, or money mindset. There's so many different modules there to be able to support you. You can check us out. And then for the month of October and ongoing, you'll lock that price in at $57 a month. Support, however, that is going up at the end of October. So get in quickly if you want to lock in those prices and get some support so that you can start making a much bigger impact in the world with your message, while position yourself as that trusted authority in your industry. The influencealliance.com is where it is all at. So I'll see you again same time next week. If you do have a question that you would love me to answer next week, come back next week. And if you're brave enough, come online with me so that we can do some coaching together. And look forward to that. Have a fantastic week, everyone. Bye for now.